If you need a blessing, then stretch your hand and touch this Quran. Stretch your hand and touch this Quran. You in electric mosque, teachings of Islam around the world, stretch your hand and touch this Quran. Stretch your hand and touch my hand. May Allah bless you, people of the world. Most divine brothers and sisters in the fraternity of religion and the concourse of humanity, Assalamu alaikum. May the peace and the mercies and the blessings of God Almighty be with one and all. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Welcome to this, a presentation of the Electric Mosque's teachings of Islam. Striving to bring Islam, the religion of peace, into your hearts, into your souls, through this medium of electricity, your television, YouTube, Facebook, around the world. My dearest brothers and sisters, friends, today I wish to communicate and contemplate on the acquirement of spiritual power. The acquirement of spiritual power. Some will tell you, just believe in God, and yes, that is one way. Some will tell you, do X, Y, and Z, and some of them may be righteous. Believe in God, Creator Allah, sustainer, nourisher, but also application of thoughts and wisdom and the beauty of grandeur and goodwill and dedication to God and gratefulness to God Almighty and the universe is what will embellish the human soul to acquire, to the acquisition of spiritual power. The Holy Quran in chapter 3 verse 191 tells us, in the creation of the heaven and the earth, and in the succession of night and day, there are signs for men of understanding, those that remember God Almighty when standing, sitting, and lying on their sides, and reflect upon the creation of the heavens and the earth. Saying, Lord, O Allah, you have not created these in vain. Glory be to thee. Save us from the torment of the fire, Lord. Quran 3 191. Again, in the Holy and the Glorious Quran, because we will be talking on the acquisition of spiritual power, the Holy Quran, a verse comes to mind. The verse Quran, chapter 14, verse 34. And He gave you all that you asked for. Which simply means whatever is needed by man was already pre-created, procreated for man to live the good life on this earth, and has been prepared in advance by the Creator. He needs oxygen. He needs food that grows bountifully. Fruits, vegetable, grains. So the earth was prepared directly and indirectly. Horses, for instance, were directly created. But airplanes and cars were indirectly created, but all taken from elements of the earth. The aluminum, the metals, the copper, to make the cars and the airplane. When the time came for mankind to be blessed with that thought, due to the constant movement of people and the growth of population, men were inspired by God to discover these things and to take mud and extract aluminum, to take sand and make glass. The knowledge had to have come from someone special, my beloved, divine brothers and sisters around the world. Quran 16:8 says, and He has created horses, mules and donkeys for you to ride, and as an adornment. And He has created other things which are beyond your knowledge. Beloved brothers and sisters, the Holy Quran reveals itself when you read it with a beautiful heart. When you want something and you look for it, it just comes out of the air, out of the atmosphere, be it through the internet, be it through contemplation, be it through thought, be it through the library. And He has created things which are beyond all your knowledge. When the internet came into being, when the thermos flask to preserve food came into being, when the refrigerator came into being, at the right time, mankind was inspired with the ability to invent these things indirectly from God's knowledge, and everything that humanity uses comes from the earth. Everything. This is why some religions worship the earth. Brothers and sisters, the Holy Quran says in Quran 2:172, O you who believe, eat of the good things that we have provided for you, and be grateful to Allah if it is Him that you worship. God, Allah just means the one and only. The other word that comes that resembles it in Judaism or the religion of Jesus Christ, who was a Jew, was Yahweh Elohim. And in Sanatan Dharma, or the Aryan religion, the Om. Worship the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul. This is the command. And this is the way to achieve spiritual power. And now for our thoughts and our behavior. The world is filled with men and women seeking pleasure, excitement, novelty, seeking ever to be moved to laughter or tears, not seeking strength, stability and power, courting weakness and eagerly engage in dispersing what power they have on their fellow weaker men. Just heard that in Trinidad and Tobago they discovered over 60 people who were held in cages as a form of slavery, and I think also to be sold for body parts for the rich around the world, their kidney, their livers. They caught in this craziness for wealth, cost it what it may be. Men and women of real power and influence are few, but few are prepared to make the sacrifice necessary to the acquirement of power, and fewer still are ready to patiently build up character. So the power now we're moving to is not egotistical or acquisition of wealth or political power, but is the power to build character, the ability to acquire spiritual power, to be swayed by your fluctuating thoughts, which as we know moves like a racehorse, and impulses is to be weak and powerless. To rightly control and direct those forces is to be strong and powerful. This is power. To control the ego, to control the desires and the ambition for too much. Men of strong animal passions have much of the ferocity of the beast. But this is not power. The elements of power are there, but it is only when this ferocity is tamed and subdued by the higher intelligence that real power begins, and men can only grow in power by awakening themselves to higher and ever higher status of intelligence and consciousness. The difference between man of weakness and one of power lies not in the strength of the personal will, for the stubborn man is usually weak and foolish. He may direct his will to evil and to wrong things. But in that focus of consciousness which represents their states of knowledge, but in that focus of consciousness which represents their states of knowledge, the pleasure seekers, the lovers of excitement, the hunters after novelty, who like to kill innocent animals for their head or for their horns, due to their wealth, and the victims of impulse and hysterical emotion lack that knowledge of principles which gives balance, stability, and influence. A man commences to develop power when checking his impulses and self-inclinations. He falls back upon the higher, calmer consciousness within him and begins to steady himself upon the principle. The realization of unchanging principles in consciousness is at once the source of the secret of the highest power. When, after much searching and suffering and sacrificing, the light of an eternal principle dawns upon the soul, a divine man ensues and joys unspeakable gladdens his heart. He who has realized such a principle ceases to wonder and remain poised and self-possessed. He ceases to be passion's slave and becomes a master builder. He becomes, my friends and families around the world, the master builder in the temple of destiny. The man that is governed by self And self has two criterion. Is when you're looking after self. It could be that you're looking after your spiritual development from within. You're taking care of self first, your soul. But then there's also another self. The self of selfishness. And here we're talking about the self of selfishness in this conversation. The man that is governed by self and not by principle changes his front when his selfish comforts are threatened. Deeply intent upon defending and guarding his own interests. Those dishonest ones, those political maniacs, those who want to control people, their money, and to have all power. He regards all means as lawful. And he will subserve that end, will do anything to get his political power, his wealth, his control, his evil tendencies absorb his mentality of consciousness. He's continually scheming as to how he may protect himself against his enemies. And his enemies become those who are positive, those who educate, those who teach, those who are apolitical or non-political. They become the enemies of the politicians of hate and gluttonous grandeur for greed and power. Being too self-centered to perceive in reality that he, these people that I mentioned, is his own enemy. Such a man, work crumbles away. His good things fall apart. His evil crumbles him. For it is divorced from truth and power. All effort is grounded upon self. Everything we do that is grounded on selfishness perishes. Only that work endures. The work that endures, that is built upon an indestructible principle. And what is this principle? Friends and families. Let's go on. Tell your friends and family. Tune into YouTube. Check Facebook. Check the wonderful, check Roshan Khan Facebook. Check Facebook, Universal Peace Federation, Guyana. Check YouTube, Electric Mosque, Guyana. Check Facebook, Electric Mosque, Guyana. Brothers and sisters, to spread the words that I'm passing on to you, that is coming from the Creator, Lord of the worlds. The man that stands with principle is the same calm, dauntless, self-possessed man under all circumstances. When the hour of trial comes and he has to decide between his personal comforts and truth, he gives up his comforts and remains firm. Even the prospect of torture and death does not alter or deter him. The man of self regards the loss of wealth, his comforts, or his life as the greatest calamities which can befall him. I repeat, the man of self, or the selfish man, the man of nafs according to Islam, the man of evil, regards the loss of his wealth, his comforts, or his life as the greatest calamities which can befall him. The man of principle looks upon these incidents as comparatively insignificant. They mean nothing to the man with the inner self awakened, the spiritual zeal, the spiritual power touching God. These losses of wealth and its comfort become paltry or insignificant, and not to be weighed or compared to loss of character, loss of truth. To desert or understand truth is to him the only happening which can really be called a calamity. To lose his soul, to lose his way of humanity, to lose his love for mankind, his love for religions, not only a religion, but to respect and honor all religions. This is the self-made man whose self the inner soul touches God, and then the selfish man with his nafs, or his evil inclination, who goes down lower and lower as a snake crawling on its stomach. Even the prospect of death or torture will not scare this guy, because he has faith. Truth to such a person, and I'm repeating for emphasis, is the real loss or calamity to such a man, whose consciousness, whose self-consciousness is about to be lost. He suffers. But he who keeps it and tries more and more goes higher and higher to the level of righteousness. It is the hour of crisis which decides who are the minions or creatures of darkness, and who are the children of light or the children of God. It is the epoch of threatening disaster, ruin and persecution, which divides the sheep from the goats and reveals the reverential gaze of succeeding ages in men and women of power. It is easy for a man, friends and families, divine brothers and sisters, for as long as he is left in the enjoyment of his possessions, to persuade himself that he believes in and adheres to the principles of peace, brotherhood, and universal love. But if when his enjoyments are threatened, or he imagines they are threatened, he begins to clamor loudly for war, to go to court, even though he has failed in every aspect in life, in life. And I have some families like this, gluttonous, torment their parents, steal from the parents, build the home, break glass over and over, torment and hurt them, because he's manipulating them to pay some money to him through another. This happens in families. It's a shame and a disgrace that these things happen. So my brothers and sisters, he shows that he believes in and stands upon not peace, brotherhood and love, but strife, selfishness and hatred. That is the person who is caught up in selfishness. He who does not desert or retract his principles when threatened with loss of every earthly thing, even loss of reputation in life, is the man of power. Man will stand to lose everything. Even some people try to take his name and his honor, but he stands firm, committed to God. That is the man of power. Is the man whose every word and work endures. Is the man whom the afterworld honors. The hereafter, his way to paradise is paved with gold. Honor, who reveres and worships. This is the man who develops his spiritual power, and this is the way to acquire spiritual power. Rather than desert that principle of divine love on which he rested and on which all his trust was placed, Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, suffered bricks, torture, beatings, his followers killed, slaughtered in the most vicious of ways. In Taif, he was pelted with bricks for just taking the message of one God, Muhammad. And today, after so much of hate, and he took it all, and when God wanted to destroy Taif, tell me, and I will destroy Taif, the Holy Prophet said, no, save them. But it was his worst time in life. Yet, he pleaded for the safety of his people, though they believe not. And God told him, your job is only to take the message, O Rasulullah Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. There is no way to the acquirement of spiritual power except by inward illumination and enlightenment, which is the realization of spiritual principles. And those principles can only be realized by constant practice and application. You have to practice the good, just as those people who constantly see evil and swallow them, drinks the evil, goes to bed thinking the evil. The secret is this, brothers and sisters. Where do you stand? What is your level? You know what is the measurement? Realize when you go to bed, last before your eye closes, what do you think of? And when your eye opens, what do you think of and what do you do? Then you will know how close you are to spiritual greatness or spiritual attachment to the Creator, or whether you are with the devil. Constant practice of positive thoughts. If we imbibe evil, we are thinking hate and jealousy, we are thinking suspicion, then by nature our mind, our heart and our bodies will turn like that. And our DNA, our bloodline, will absorb that thought. But if we are to imbibe love, harmony, goodness, forgiveness, and if we are to put out goodness, harmony, love, peace and respect for all religions, all humanity, then we help to change the world, and that is recorded in our DNA, and that is what we become, and that is what our children become when we produce them through our sperm or through our blood. This is how man who have a penchant for evil, and they will say, my father was a bad man, so I took his seed. My grandfather was a bad man. My father was a passionate man, so I turned passion. No, you, through good thoughts, could fight that and rewrite your DNA by thinking and fighting the urge for passion or for hate or for evil. Dearest, most beloved, divine brothers and sisters, in the concourse of humanity and the fraternity of religions, may the peace, may the mercies, may the blessings of God be with one and all. Join me. Touch my hand if you can. Be blessed as I take your blessing and I give you my blessing. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Muhammadur Rasulullah. Subhanallah. Subhanallah.